Alright, hello again. In this video I wanted to show you guys a couple things that I like to do to simplify the arm when I'm drawing, and just like a few visual tricks that I like to use here and there to make it easier to draw the arm in different positions and whatnot. So without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so one of the muscles that I really like to pay attention to is this muscle right here called the brachioradialis. It is one of the most prominent muscles in the entire arm, and it's also one that can be seen from almost any angle that you draw the arm in. And so I'm going to show you how I like to place that muscle on the arm when I'm drawing, and also how I locate that muscle. Okay, so in this example, I'm drawing an arm where the palm of the hand is facing us directly, just so that I can show you how that muscle fits into the arm in this position, and in this position, it's going to inform how you place that muscle in other positions of the arm. Okay, so in this example, I wanted to show you how the brachioradialis, which is that red muscle there, goes down the entire length of the arm. Now, as you can see in the diagram here, there are a lot of other sort of sub-muscles that surround it to its left, but typically when I draw the arm, I don't really like to draw each muscle individually like that. So the way that I do it is I just kind of take the most prominent shapes and just split it essentially into two halves of the forearm. So there's one very important detail about this muscle that helps me understand how the muscle sits on the arm whenever I'm drawing it in different positions, and it's that this muscle connects to the thumb. So you can see here that the muscle starts up at the bicep, goes down the length of the arm, and it connects into the thumb. And if I bring up this little diagram here, you can see that it does indeed start way up at the bicep. It goes down the length of the arm, and it connects to a point right there at the thumb. And so the reason why that detail is so important is because when we're drawing the arm in different positions, in other words, when we rotate our forearm, that muscle is going to wrap around the form of the arm according to the way that it's rotated. So in this example, the back of the hand is visible, and so because of that, the brachioradialis is going to wrap around to the other side of the arm. And the reason is because if we had the palm facing us, we can see the entire length of it, but if we have the back of the hand facing us, you can see that it's going to start way up there between the bicep and the tricep, and it's going to wrap around to the part of the forearm that we can't see. In this next example, I drew an arm that is kind of like being extended out sideways laterally, and the palm of the hand is facing up to the sky. And I just wanted to show you that since you can still see most of the underside of the arm there, you'd be able to place the entire length of the brachioradialis along the whole length of the forearm as it connects to the thumb. And in this example, we have an arm from a side profile view in a bent position, sort of like the arm is flexing. And in this position, we can see the back of the hand. So again, because we see the back of the hand, that muscle is going to wrap around to the other side of the forearm that we can't see, and it's going to still connect to the thumb there. Now, to me, the reason why this muscle is so important is because it is one of the main contributing factors to the arm's overall gesture. If I was to fill in this arm so as to make it just a completely black silhouette, you would still be able to see the bump in the arm that it creates, as opposed to muscles that are in the middle of the arm that aren't immediately noticeable. It's partly the reason why you might see a comparison between like a chicken leg and a forearm, And it's because the both of them share a very similar gesture, right? The flow between them two are nearly the same, and that the widest part of the chicken leg creates a similar bump as the widest part of the forearm. So when I draw the forearm in a foreshortened position, the brachioradialis is just always kind of in the back of my mind, just because of the unique shape that it gives the forearm, the way it protrudes outward from it. It's like a flow that's very easily replicatable in different positions. Always keeping in mind how it wraps around the forearm to the thumb. However, in the example that I'm drawing here at the bottom, you'll see here in a second that the shape that I shade in red doesn't lead into the thumb, and that's because I'm focusing more on the outer contour of the arm. I'm already aware of the bump that the brachioradialis creates on the arm, and so in this example I'm just using a combination of shapes that would give me that same result as if I did it anatomically correct. In fact, if I covered the figure completely in black, you can see that the silhouette of the arm still reads correctly, even though the shapes that I used weren't necessarily placed anatomically correct. So now I want to quickly go over how to locate the brachioradialis. And to do that, we're actually going to look at the deltoid, which is your shoulder. Now, as you can see in this diagram, the deltoid is split up into three separate heads. It's the front, middle, and the rear delt. But more importantly, I wanted you to see how all three heads seemingly converge onto one single point right smack dab in the middle of the arm. You can observe the same thing in this diagram of this skeletal figure. And finally, if we look at this diagram here we have the deltoid, and here is the brachioradialis muscle group. Now there's a muscle in between the tricep and the bicep that is called the brachialis. Now typically I won't actually draw this muscle, but it's still very important, and the reason is because if I take the convergence point of the deltoid and I draw a line directly down from that point, it's going to lead me straight into the brachioradialis muscle group. And so while I don't actually draw the brachialis muscle, I still like to indicate that it's there simply by just drawing a single line from the convergence point of the deltoid down to about the bottom of the bicep. So now, how does all of that translate to when you're actually drawing the arm? And quite literally, I take the convergence point of the deltoid, draw a line directly down to about the bottom of the bicep, and just like that, that gives me the placement of the brachioradialis muscle group, and then I kind of just draw it in from there, and as well as the rest of the arm. And as you can see there, I thought the arm was looking a little flat, so I just erased some of it just to get a better outer contour of the arm, like a better silhouette. And so now, with all of that information being said, here are a couple examples of arms that I drew using all of that information that we just discussed. So you can see, once I draw the shoulder, I find the convergence point of the deltoid, I put the red dot, and I draw a line straight from that all the way down to the elbow in this example, and that gives me the position of the whole arm as well as the angle of it. In this example, you'll see where I find the location of where the arm bends by just putting a line down from the convergence point, giving me the brachioradialis, and then from there it just gives me a more natural flow, like a more natural look. And here you can see the line ends at about the bottom of the bicep. In this example, it's of an arm raised laterally to its side. And I wanted you to notice that convergence point and how I draw a red line that's going to go down the length of the upper arm, and that's going to give me the bump of the brachioradialis, and then from there I can draw the rest of the arm. Note again how the brachioradialis wraps around the forearm to the thumb. In this example, I wanted to show you how this information can be used for drawing a figure where their hands are on their hips. So from here, I have the convergence point of the shoulder go down, and then that gives me the brachioradialis, and I kind of just go straight across from that center point where the red line stops at the bottom of the bicep. And over on the other side, it's the exact same process where I draw a line down from the convergence point, draw it straight across from the bottom of the bicep, and it gives me the brachioradialis. And in this next example, I wanted to show you how you can use the exact same process to draw folded arms that are, crossed together. Moving on to this next technique, it's also a fairly simple one. And the idea here is that I just use an oval to represent the entire upper arm, and then what I do is I draw a line diagonally down from that bottom outer corner to where I feel like the thumb would be. And then from there, the flow of the arm kind of becomes clearer to me as I add more shapes to complete out the entire form. And by doing this, it gives me like a collection of shapes that looks like an arm. With this next example, I have like a guy who's kind of going to be hunched over, and I can use the same exact process with this arm. I put the line diagonally down from the outer corner and then fill it out from there. And so a big part of my process is just kind of finding a way to make it look correct instead of actually being correct. So like these shapes together aren't necessarily anatomically correct, but I'm using them in a way that makes it read like it's anatomically correct. So like whatever combination of shapes you want to use, you could have like an arm that's made up of like 16 different shapes, but as long as it reads like an arm, I think that's kind of all that matters. And so finally in this video, this next example is just going to be how the arm interlocks. So at this point at the bottom of the bicep and this point at the bottom of the tricep, starting with the bicep side, the way you can make it look like the arm is interlocking into each other is by drawing a line down, and then at the tricep drawing a line up, and then kind of connecting the dots in between. And that will give you the look of how the forearm interlocks with the upper arm, which also in turn gives you a pretty good guideline for the placement of the brachioradialis. And so with this next example, I have an arm that's going to be raised laterally to its side. And so basically at the elbow pit of your arm, you're going to put a line down from the bicep, up from the tricep, and then connect the dots, and that's going to give you the interlock. Or you could just put an S on there, and it's going to be the exact same thing. So again, just put an S, and you'll get the way that the arm interlocks into each other. And these next few examples they don't really have anything to do with what we just talked about, but they're just some random examples of an arm that I just thought I'd throw in there at the end of the video, although they do use information that I shared earlier in this video about the convergence point on the deltoid going down to the brachioradialis and that whole deal. And with that, that is going to do it for now, you guys. There are so many ways that you can simplify the arm in your drawings, and these are just a few techniques that I've used either to this day or in the past that I thought I'd just share with everyone here. So thanks so much for watching as always. Let me know in the comments if you want to see like a part 2 to this video. I'm sure there are some details about drawing the arm that I didn't cover in this video that I could maybe do at some point in the future. So with that, Hope to help you guys out, and I'll talk to you guys next time.